Howdy folks, today we're going to talk about the Softears volume. This is a 3-driver set. It's got one beryllium coated dynamic driver, 2 balanced armatures, one of them being a Softears custom mid B. They are absolutely gorgeous. 3D printed resin shell, vented driver there, recessed 2 pins, gorgeous as you might expect. Fit and finish on these is as good as it should be for $280. And I should mention that unlike a lot of the reviews you'll find about these headphones, I'd been hyped about them for about 4 months. I'm a huge Softears fan, so I ordered them and paid full price. So these were not given to me for a review, just to mention that. All right. Things to talk about. Let's just go ahead and pull up a graph immediately. So what we got here is someone measured the volume with the different tips included in the package. We got silicone foams and then the ultra clear tips. And what you can see here in the after 3K peak right around here is really, really drastic differences. We see that we have a, well, with the ultra clear tips, they're my favorite ones with this. Usually I use foamies, but they do not work. According to this, foams really have a lot more high mids and treble, but then they drop off actually in sort of like the high treble region, whereas the ultra clear tips seem to do a little bit better. We get an 8K peak, but in any case, they do hit me better with the ultra clear tips. I think that might be down to insertion depth, probably more than anything. Also, just to mention this, if you have a low impedance source, the base will probably be about what this graph is, but if you have a high impedance source, somewhere in the area of 18 ohm, although that's really high, probably an impedance adapter or something. But in any case, the bass comes up a bunch, 4 to 5 dB sub bass, so that's something to note. So before I get into other things, I'll just start talking here. So these have really a very nice top-of-the-line wide tonality. It's very, very open sounding. There's no faults with that. In fact, for a 3-driver arrangement, it's pretty amazing, actually. I think it's got a lot of Softears DNA and magic in them. So, you know, if you compared this $280 set to something like, I don't know, $700 to $1,000 set, I believe that the wideness, the openness will be on point, actually, which is really nice. In terms of the tuning of this, we'll call this a V-shaped set. It's not too bad, but they do have hyped treble and hype bass compared to the mid-range, which this graph doesn't really show you, which is why I'm talking to you guys. So really, the biggest problem I've got with this set is actually this little 3K peak right here. According to this, it's like 10 dB or maybe like 11, 12. I don't know. It's something close to that. So it's not out of the ballpark, but when you listen to them, this 3K peak will absolutely nail you with any kind of music that has 3K information and a lot of it. Mostly, for me, that ends up being metal and some other various tracks. But kind of the issue with this set for me is that I can really only play maybe half of my library, and the rest of it is just a little bit too much mids and too treble-y, and it's sort of like shifted to the higher regions for a lot of my music. Some of it's really good. So we'll just talk about some of this stuff. You know, so the dynamic driver, beryllium coated, is absolutely phenomenal. You will get extension as low as it goes. And I think from this graph, you could see there's no roll off. So as you hit closer to 20 hertz, you get 20 hertz. So really cool, amazing bass driver. And it's probably one of the more special things about this set. If we move up into the frequency range, we are hitting the Softears mid BA driver right around here. And generally, I love those balanced armatures, but in this case, they just pumped the energy too high. Maybe it's the fact that these have 2 bores, and they had to combine the treble and the mids into one. I don't know for sure, but yeah, so that 3K peak needs to be a little lower for my tastes in my library. And then moving on to the treble over here. I actually don't mind the treble at all, although it's right on the edge of what I can actually take in terms of my own tastes. But I would say that I've been mostly using the ultra clear tips, and It does seem like when you get a track with plenty of treble energy, you might get a little sibilance. It's not bad. It comes across in a relatively natural way, but it is sibilant. And so I would call it slightly unrefined compared to real top-of-the-line sets. And yeah. Talking about other things, the ultra treble on this is not rolled off, so we're talking right in this area. It really isn't. I did some, I got like a 15K test track. That came across really nice. You know, this area right here is not accurate on 711, so we'll just say that it's got energy up there, and I don't find it to be rolled off. It's quite nice. All right, so a couple other little odds and ends. Like I said, very, very wide tonality, definitely top-of-the-line styled. The imaging is on point. I would call it, yeah, we'll call it top-of-the-line styled imaging. Maybe a level down from the very best stuff out there, but excellent. And so just real quickly, I kind of went through some of my genres of music just to see what worked well and what didn't. And just to go over this real quick, R&B was quite nice on these. Generally, that R&B works well with like a V-shaped tonality tuning. Metal was a gigantic no. The push treble, the mids, basically made most electric guitars sound thin and grating and not my favorite at all. They needed much more meat on the bones to really hit that point for me. EDM, pretty nice, although some tracks that have, they could have synthesizers or other things in the mid-range and treble. They are going to be a little bit much, but overall pretty good for EDM. What else? Classical is actually phenomenal on them. The tonality really, really nails classical well. That bit of extra mid-range and treble really just helps instruments pop, especially acoustically recorded stuff, choir, choral stuff. Yeah. So that's classical. Let's see. Jazz was actually quite nice. Jazz is generally low-key, and these give a little bit of a hype tonality to it, but honestly, I found it really nice, revealing. Excellent, really. Reggae, pretty nice overall. That basically more modern tracks tend to do better. Older tracks don't because they're just a little more rough sounding, and this set really enjoys better mixes and better recorded stuff. Also, I tried Vaporwave. That's one of my favorite new genres, and like maybe half of it was really good, and the other half was way, way, way out of the ballpark. And the thing about Vaporwave is you could have tracks that are like, we'll say very modern recorded, and you can have tracks that are like dank, dungeony, horribleness, and anything in between. They completely screw around with the frequency ranges, the phases, reverbs, all that stuff. So like, it's a good large range of ways that music can hit you. And so this is about half and half on the Vaporwave. So yeah, the tonality is going to be shifted, in my opinion, towards the upper parts of the treble. But it does have a good amount of bass and sub-bass. But I would say that the mids are a little bit thin, not a lot, but a little bit, and probably need a little more meat on the bones to balance the rest of the tuning, at least for my tastes. And I would say that they're slightly splashy, supposing that maybe just the way that, the one balanced armature for treble, they wanted to get that detail up there on this set, and I just think they maybe needed more drivers. I'm not sure, but or maybe another bore tube. But it's a little splashy, a little bit. All right, so other things, the impedance on these is 5 ohm, and that's not a problem because the sensitivity is actually quite low, but it does influence the amount of bass that you'll get from a device cable, the output impedance of your device. All right, cool. So that's the main stuff. Yeah, when I think of it, yeah. So let's just move on to this is just a little bit of EQ. So I was kind of like battling around like, well, how could I fix this set? So I tried EQing treble, ended up just with this, which is, it's kind of dumb, but basically pulling down 3K about, what is that, 3-4 dB, 4K about the same, and then just popping back up a little bit. So just rolling off that 3K peak, and then I popped up the 2.5 just a little bit to put a little more meat on the mids. And actually this stupidly easy EQ makes like metal come across a lot better for me, and generally most tracks are still excellent and just a little better for my library and tastes. So just to show people that. Let's move on to the Excel spreadsheet, which I actually didn't get into view very well. Let me just pull that out. Sorry about that. All right, let me scoot this around here. We'll get that out of the way. And let's see. Sorry about this. I had it minimized. So anyway, right up here. Let me sort this. And yeah, whoa, where'd we go? Jesus. All right. So here's our Softears volume right here. And so exceptional factor, I really had to think about this hard. I'm not rating these with EQ, just to let folks know. So $280, we're going to give them an 8 out of 10 in special factor. Like I said, about half my library hits me super well. Bass stuff especially, mid-rangey tracks not so good, but we'll give it an 8. And probably being, I don't know if I'm being nice, but I think that the tracks it does well on, it really kills, and the tracks it's a little bit too peaky in the mids, but it doesn't, it's not too bad. I'll just say that. Lower volumes, you could do that fine. I'm not a low volume guy. Accuracy will give an 8 out of 10. I do believe that they're pretty close to good accuracy. Generally, I would say that something with plenty of mids would be more accurate, but in this case, they just went a little overboard. It's not balanced as much as I'd like, so we're going to give an 8 out of 10. Wideness, thought about this a bit, and yeah, this is going to be one of the special factors of this set. We're going to give it a 10 out of 10, and I think folks that get it probably will hear some of that Softears magic, that super ultra wide tonality. Yeah, so 10 out of 10. Really super killer for the price, $280. 3D, we're going to give a 9 out of 10. And you might say, well, with that much mids and that much treble, that might come across a little bit less 3D. Well, not really. I guess that's some Softears magic there, but I really do enjoy the 3D factor. The staging is really quite deep, especially for the amount of splashy treble, which is something. So, yeah, man, pretty good. 9 out of 10 in 3D. And that's kind of one of the reasons it took me so long to rate this set. I was, as everyone knows, I love my 3D, and this has 3D, so I liked it. But, it's got some issues, so I really had to think about that. Going over to the imaging, so this set is probably, it's definitely total top-of-the-line styled imaging with a little bit of diffuseness thrown in for good measure, giving you a little more natural timbre and tonality. But I find it really nice, and so 9 out of 10. Volume scaling, we'll give that an 8.5 out of 10. And here's the interesting thing. So at like a medium to medium-high level in volume scaling, volume, it comes across a little bit sharp, a little bit, treble heavy. As you turn the volume up, that does not actually become as much as you would expect, and it also certain tunings fall completely apart at volume. They become incomprehensible, and you just can't pick out instruments. Well, this ain't like that. So all things taken into consideration, we're going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, which is, I think, fair. Quite good, actually, for what it is. Now, bass. So I thought about this a little bit. I may upgrade this, but I'm thinking that a 9 out of 10 is probably fair. Every track with bass I tried really had an excellent amount of slam, air, extension. I tried like some rap that was like ripping the grain, and the bass hits on that are like ripping. They're awesome. What else? I got this other track, This by Hong Kong Express, and that was just cheebers, man. The low drone notes, like 32 hertz. Sick. So, yeah, 9. Maybe I'll upgrade that 9.5, something like that. But anyways, let's move on to mids, and this is where we falter. And you might be saying, wow, those are horrible. That's a bad score for mids. And really the problem is that because of the fact that it comes across good on some stuff and just way, way, way too much on others, I have to be honest, and the truth of the matter is that I probably would have a hard time listening to this set on at least on random. If I picked my certain tracks, I'd be okay, but we got to be honest. So the mids are not bad. They're not, the timbre isn't bad, but there's just, they peak too hard, and they make a lot of music really hard for me to enjoy. So, yeah, 6.5 out of 10. If you were to EQ, you can get that a lot better, and I mean a lot better, and maybe like some kind of modification damper, which I'm not doing. So there it is. That's probably where the big problems in this set will become for most folks. In fact, a few friends of mine bought them as I've been hyping the hell out of them for a while, and that was a big sadness factor. Yeah, so. All right, detail and treble, we're going to call an 8.5 out of 10. They would have been higher except for, like I said, a little hair bit unrefined, it seems like, where a more expensive set might sit in the pocket a little better. This one will peak a little more. Tiny bit of sibilance on some tracks. It is what it is, but it's not bad. It's just not. It's not the best. So 8.5 out of 10. Resolution will give an 8 out of 10. Nothing super special, nothing bad. Very probably good on the upper side of good resolution. Pressure buildup, none. Isolation, we'll give it a 4. Might be able to get a 5 out of these. They actually do fit some folks with a full custom styled fit, especially with the crystal tips. So cool. Binaural is going to be a 4 out of 5. As long as you don't turn it up too much, it comes across really quite natural and nice-like. And no special features. Let's just slide back over to the overall. So we are at 84.5 out of 100. And I think that pretty much lands about where I'd keep them. If I probably will sell these, honestly. I just don't. I have enough sets that I don't need to EQ or screw around with, and I'm not in the mood to do that. And, there's plenty of folks that will enjoy this tuning, I'm quite sure, that don't run quite as crazy volume as I do. Maybe they're not metalheads like I am. So, yeah, it is what it is, man. Not going to get the wreck, but they're a nice set, man. I think I told everyone about their strengths and weaknesses, and I think that, by the way, this is the cable. I actually like the cables on the Softears a lot. They're like pro-styled, not too stiff, none of that stuff, long enough. Really pretty cool. So, yeah, Softears. We'll try again on the next one, man. Yeah, maybe the next one will be a little more refined, probably a lot more expensive. That's kind of the way Softears goes. But right on, folks. I will talk to you on the next one, and have a great day.